Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a massive, absolute game changer of a paradigm shift that is completely rewriting the rules of modern work. I mean, if you've been paying even a little bit of attention to the tech space lately, you already know the capabilities of AI are advancing at warp speed. But the real story here, the one that actually changes how businesses operate and how you build your own career, isn't just about how smart these systems are getting. It's really about a staggering, completely unprecedented plunge in the unit cost of intelligence. Okay, let's dive into this. 86 times. That is the number you need to keep in your head today. We're looking at a dramatic 86x reduction in the cost of executing routine cognitive work. Now, when the cost of a fundamental resource collapses this dramatically, literally everything built on top of that resource has to be fundamentally re-architected. And in the cognitive economy we're living in, that resource is intelligence itself. Let's anchor this in financial reality because these numbers are just wild. Take a look at a standard IT password reset. Historically, the fully loaded cost of a human handling this routine task is roughly $18. Today, a production AI agent can resolve that exact same ticket for 21 cents. That is your 86x drop right there. And the absolute most important thing to understand here is that this isn't some marketing fluff or theoretical math. We are talking about measured, enterprise telemetry data pulled from real-world deployments. And it doesn't stop at IT. It spans across entire departments. Just look at these undeniable ROI metrics. A routine pull request code review, that drops from a $48 senior engineer burden down to 72 cents. That's a 66x reduction. Need a marketing brief? That drops from $185 to $2.40. What about a raw long-form article draft? A massive 156x drop from $640 down to $4.10. And remember, these are fully loaded costs. We're directly comparing human salary, benefits, and management overhead against the AI's compute, integration, and evaluation costs. The financial incentive to automate this routine execution is absolutely overwhelming. Part 1. The paradox. Threat versus economic rebound. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the psychology behind it. Looking at those staggering numbers, it's incredibly natural to feel a sense of anxiety about job displacement. I mean, if a machine can do in literal pennies what a human does for hundreds of dollars, it sounds like an extinction-level event for knowledge workers, right? But economic history suggests a completely different and honestly far more optimistic outcome, known as the Jevons paradox. Back in 1865, a British economist named William Stanley Jevons noticed something very strange. As steam engines became much more efficient, he fully expected total coal consumption to drop. But the exact opposite happened. Because coal-powered production became so much cheaper, entirely new industries adopted it, and total coal consumption skyrocketed. Efficiency actually drove an explosion in demand. And this historical analogy maps perfectly to what we're experiencing right now. In the 19th century, the core physical resource was coal. Today, in the 21st century, our core resource is cognitive labor, intelligence. Just as more efficient steam engines made power cheaper and expanded the total market for mechanized production, cheaper intelligence is actually expanding the total market for cognitive work. We don't just do the same amount of work with fewer people. Actually, scratch that. It's more like we start doing vastly more work overall. We see this exact pattern repeat relentlessly throughout history. Think about the printing press in the 1440s. It didn't eliminate writers. It birthed mass literacy and created a massive demand for more content. In the 1980s, tools like spreadsheets didn't destroy accounting. They just made financial modeling so incredibly cheap that companies demanded infinitely more complex math to argue over in boardrooms. That created a massive boom in financial analyst roles. Even in the 1970s, ATMs made running a bank branch so cheap that banks opened way more branches, which actually expanded the demand for human tellers to handle high-value relationship banking. Technology, for sure, expands the scope of what is economically viable. Part 2. Unlocking latent economic demand. So how does this cost collapse connect directly to today's AI agentic economy? Well, think about your own company for a second. Every organization has a massive backlog of things they've always wanted to do but simply couldn't afford. This is latent demand. Now that execution costs have hit the absolute floor, organizations can suddenly provide incredibly niche market research for tiny microsegments. They can afford to translate assets into every minor language. They can maintain exhaustive, highly detailed audit trails for compliance, or do highly personalized sales outreach at a massive scale. The work isn't shrinking at all. The perimeter of what a business can accomplish is rapidly expanding. Which brings us to a brilliant concept detailed in the source material, the daily forklifts. It's such a great metaphor. Think of autonomous AI agents as heavy machinery for the mind. They act as goal-oriented assets, handling all that grueling heavy lifting, the routine data extraction, the endless document synthesis, the boilerplate execution. Just as a physical forklift allows a single construction worker to move tons of steel effortlessly, the daily cognitive forklift allows human labor to scale up and tackle much higher-order complexities.
Part 3. Shifting to complex architecture. Now, if the machine is doing all the heavy lifting, what exactly are you supposed to be doing? How do we redefine the human role in an era where the baseline capabilities of AI have been drastically elevated? So the crucial point is summarized perfectly in this quote. As generative AI automates routine execution, human value concentrates on higher-order tasks. When generating a first draft or writing boilerplate code costs literal pennies, mere execution is absolutely no longer your professional differentiator. You just can't compete on raw output volume anymore. Your value has to migrate upward.
And this brilliantly illustrates the career shift you need to make right now. We're moving from the old paradigm of production, sitting at a desk, grinding out drafts or writing standard code, into the new paradigm of direction and judgment. The new premium skills are things like complex system integration, prompt engineering, catching those really subtle errors that the AI misses, and managing complex relational coordination between human teams. To put it simply, you're no longer the one pulling the oars. You are the one steering the ship.
If you need macro-level proof that this transition is real, just look at this data from the World Economic Forum. Yes, they project 92 million routine jobs will be displaced. That's a big number. But because of the Jevons paradox, because cheaper intelligence unlocks all that new economic demand we just talked about, they project 170 million new jobs will be created. That is a net global addition of 78 million positions. The demand for human capability isn't disappearing, it is evolving and it's expanding.
Which leaves us with this final critical question. The cost collapses are absolutely here. The daily forklift is plugged in and running at full speed. So when routine execution costs just 21 cents, how will you spend your cognitive capital? It's time to stop competing on the routine and start building your real value around the complex, the strategic, and the deeply human aspect. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it helps you rethink your own career strategy in the agentic economy. See you next time.